Hello people, and welcome back to another Cities Skylines tutorial. This tutorial, which is going to be kind of more of a showcase rather than a tutorial, hopefully you guys can kind of get some inspiration from this. This is a request from Jessie Slaughter, who has been a long time subscriber of the channel, so thank you very much for your suggestion, man. Again, if anyone else has any other suggestions or ideas for inspiration or tutorial videos, please feel free to drop them down in the comments. I'm always happy to try and help you guys out to the best of my knowledge. But Jessie was wondering how we can go about creating an efficient industry area so that it works properly and you're producing as much goods and as much resource as you can. This little thing here on the right is just the cinematic camera mod, so just ignore that for right now. So we are back in the city of Frenwood already, until the new city kick starts up and gets going, which will be hopefully this weekend. I've had to be staying late at work a few nights this week, so that'll hopefully be this weekend the new Let's Play kicks up. But back in our old beloved Frenwood, this is our forestry industry, which is the Frenwood Forestry Commission. And if I can find, here it is. So Briar Rose Wood. So when you're opening up a industries information panel, and we'll also be covering the general zoned industry area for those people that might not be playing with the industries expansion pack. So don't worry about that. We'll help you guys out as well. When you're opening up this panel, you're greeted with kind of a flow chart, if you like. So based on whatever your industry is, it could be, I think there's 4, isn't there? Yeah. So there's forestry, farming, ore, and oil. So there's 3 new separate industries that came with the industry expansion. So whichever one will appear here. So right now we're in a forest, we're producing logs and timber and whatnot. So we're producing raw forest products. Now this comes down and tells you how many tons of that you are producing exactly. And then this splits off into 3 different arms if you're including the original one. So the first one we're producing off is paper. The second one is planned timber. And then the third one is just the raw forestry product, so basically just cut down trees. Now there are different buildings you place in and around an industry area to produce different things. So you can see here we have a biomass pellet plant which is giving us paper. It's taking that raw forest product and turning it into paper. And then we also have, here it is, the engineered wood plant which is taking that raw forest product again and turning it into planned timber. So you get the raw forest product by placing the various different resource buildings that come with each one. For example, if you're doing an ore, then the raw building will be a mine, and then if you're building an oil industry, then the resource building will be an oil rig. Oh, there goes a plane. So some good tips that you can use for industry. You don't want them right on the main road because these things generate a ton of traffic. As you can see, just kind of looking over here, let's put on our 3rd speed. You can just kind of see from the bird's eye view just how much traffic these things actually produce. So having them right on your main road, you could imagine now if we placed an industry area right along here, for example, like this road is already mega busy. So you don't want this much extra traffic coming down that road. So a few tips to try and avoid the major traffic jams that these things produce is to, 1, have a cargo export method nearby. So there's 3 ways you can do that. Based on how far along you are in your city, they can either be cargo train hubs, which I can't remember the milestone that they're unlocked at. They're not too far in, but it is a couple of thousand population milestone before you unlock these things. By having these things nearby, the raw forest product that is being exported, so let me move that notification on, the raw forest product and the paper and the planned timber, or whatever it is your industry area is producing, will be exported through these things. So they're chucked on a train, and then you'll probably see one come along in a moment. Here's one right now. This guy's coming down from the oil industry area, and then he's just taking the network rail, and he's heading out of the map and exporting it away. So these things are really useful. They're not the most efficient way to get goods out of your city, but they are certainly helpful. See, there's another one coming in here now. He's going to take on a new batch of forestry products, and then off he goes. He's gone into the distance. So that's one way of keeping the traffic down, is to have one of these. The second way, and a really good tip for your industry areas, is to make sure that they have direct, if not super close, highway access. So this place is starting to back up a little bit, isn't it? I need to, I don't need to adjust it because we don't play this city anymore. So by having the highway access, so we can just see, if we leave this on 3 speed for a moment right now, and just watch all these trucks that are going to come down this road. They're going to enter the roundabout, and then they're going to jump onto the highway in various different directions. So this guy's going off down there, that guy's going off, there's a couple of guys waiting in the traffic line here to get back on the highway. Like, you don't want these trekking, like, the reason I added this access road in down here was to give them a faster way out where there's no buildings and not much other traffic coming down that road. If they had to come all the way back through here, then they're going to come down this road and clog up the little town centre junction that we've got going on here, and that's really not what we want. We want them to be coming down here and have direct highway access, so then they can either head over to another part of the city to drop the goods off, or they can head down into the highway interchange and then distribute throughout the city as they need to. The third tip for keeping the traffic down is one of these things. Now, these things do not unlock until the last milestone in the city. These are the cargo airports, and they do have, I can just delete some of this stuff here. They do have inbuilt rails, which are really useful. Now, the way I placed this in Fremwood didn't really allow for me to use the rail export, but you can hook these up. So they are essentially a cargo hub, a cargo airport, and a cargo train station combined to make a cargo hub. So these things, again, you can see, we have our oil fields nearby here. So we have, the oil rigs are producing all the raw product. It looks like this just because it's kind of aesthetically pleasing. You don't have to place them like this. You can place them in a pretty standard grid fashion. They don't have to be kind of dotted around the place like I've done. But this thing brings in a lot of traffic, as you can see, and then it's just going to distribute around the city again as well. So looking at how our ore industry functions, we have our oil rigs, kind of oil, I think these are called oil drills, are they? Yeah, small oil pump. So these things are producing our raw resource, which then spawns the trucks, and these guys are going to drive around in various different directions. And then they're either going to go ahead and straight ahead to export the oil, or what I like to do is I like to separate my production buildings away from the resource buildings. So if we come over here, this place is still part of the same oil industry. However, this section here is focused entirely on production. So if we take a look at some of the buildings, it's turning oil into plastic, and it's turning oil into petroleum. So all the way over, oh, I've lost myself. There we go. So these buildings right here, these places are just storage. We'll cover storage in a moment. So we have our large oil pumps. These guys are all producing oil. Now some of that raw oil is just going to be exported. So we can see here, now it's the same tree again. You have the raw resource which gets exported. We currently export 104 barrels. And then we're also producing petroleum and plastics, which is used for various different things. And we'll cover the factories in a moment as well. So it's a nice idea to kind of separate your production buildings away from your resource, just your resource buildings. So I didn't do that in the forestry because the forestry building isn't, the forestry area, sorry, isn't really that big. However, if we take a look at this map's oil reserves, I'll pull up the natural resource thing here, you can see how big this thing is. Like, it stretches near the entire length of the map, and obviously we didn't go down that way when we unlocked the tiles, but the resource of oil on this map is crazy huge. There is an absolute ton of it. So I had the ability to spread them out, and you don't need to place the resource production buildings within the resource thing itself. So for, say for example, if we pull up the resource marker again, these production buildings, they don't have to be within where the black oil is. They could be out here, or over here, or over here, or they could be over there if you wanted them to. You wouldn't want to do that because that's going to create loads of traffic travelling right across your map. You still want them to be nearby, but they don't have to be in or on top of where the natural resource is, if that makes some kind of sense. But yeah, it's a nice idea to separate it. And again, you can see I've kind of done the same thing here with these guys. They have their own cargo train station, which is connected up to the main lines through this big junction here. And then they also have nearby access to the cargo airport, which is allowing them to export vast amounts as well. So coming off different accesses, they've got easy access to the highway over here and both over here as well. So you can see there's a little bit of traffic building up around here just because of the way I built the road system. Don't copy that. That's just people dropping resources off at the warehouse. But if you're focusing on the highway access, all these oil buildings on this side of the highway and on this side, and from the cargo airport as well, and the train station, all have multiple access points onto the main highway, which is, you know, where a lot of our goods are transported from, and they go off in a direction down there. And there's more cargo hubs down here as well, which have, you know, just a simple main road down there. So if there's kind of a few take-home tips you can take from this video, it's make sure that you don't really build your oil industry right on vital main roads in your city, because they generate tons of traffic. And the higher level they go, the more traffic they produce as well. And it's to give them a really easily accessible method of exporting the actual cargo that they're trying to move. So that can be cargo hub, cargo train stations, it can be cargo airports, it can be cargo ports, or access to a highway that leaves the map. So that's pretty much some of the take-home tips. In terms of efficiency, grid patterns work really well for your industry areas, and you can also use large warehouses and different kinds of warehouses to store your product. So say, for example, I know we have a warehouse over here. So this guy over here, let's just pause the game for a moment. So this guy here is storing flour. Now he doesn't have a lot of it in at the moment. And these other guys are storing some stuff as well. So I know that there's a food factory right here that needs flour. And you can see right now that it's the lowest of its resource. So rather than having this guy specifically import flour from the cargo hubs or the cargo airport, which is going to create more trucks on my roads, I can have my trucks from the farm and from the other cargo input methods as well store flour within the small warehouse. So when the food factory starts to run low, I can simply allow it to pull resources from the warehouse that's nearby, and then it's just going to replenish its supply and go back up, and then it's going to carry on producing food for me, which is obviously what we want, because these things are mega expensive to run, and if they're not producing goods, they're going to eat into your budget massively. So make sure that they are well supplied. Now warehouses, we've got a couple of large ones over here as well. So we're just using this to store planned timber. Now we have a couple of factories around here. Where's the other one? I think it's just the food factory we have around here now. Yeah, it is. So we have one here. There's a sneaker factory right here that he's running low on crops. So this is a prime example. So there's a guy here, the sneaker factory is running low on crops. Now the warehouses right next to him are storing plant timber, paper, animal products, and metals. If I'd have had one of these set to store crops, this guy would have easily been able to pull crops out of the warehouse and then carry on his production line. But because it's been neglected for a little while, he hasn't had any resources available to him. So it hasn't really worked out for him here. But they're a really good way to kind of use warehouses in and around the city. They're also kind of neat to store maybe a small warehouse kind of in and around your downtown area. And that can be because the commercial and industry buildings will use the raw resource, because obviously they need something to sell themselves. And if they have the warehouse nearby, rather than having your truck trek all the way from the industry area into the downtown, just creating more cars on the roads, the commercial buildings can just pull stuff straight out of the warehouse. So that's a really useful tip. It's kind of a little bit immersion breaking to place one of these massive ones right in the middle of your downtown. But a small one can be really helpful and kind of handy for just making sure that your businesses are running as efficiently as possible and you aren't creating more unnecessary traffic. We'll hop over and take a look at our ore industry real quick. So this guy over here, let's take a look. So again, it's really kind of similar methods. Remember, we have our ore guys have really easy access back onto an export method, which for them is the highway. So they have their own dedicated road. There's a little cut through here. And then these guys come all the way through, and then bam, they're onto the highway, and they can head off in any direction they please. They can head on over to the cargo airport over there. They can go to the cargo ports, or they can pop into one of the cargo train stations, or just head out of the city themselves. So when I was planning this, I made sure that they had easy access to actually get the product out of here. And now these kind of rocks and blocks and whatnot are just kind of for aesthetic purposes. They don't need to be placed. It's just so we can make it look kind of nice. So now you've got a small, let's have a look at the ore industry area actually. So we're producing ore here, and some of that ore is being turned into metal, some of it's being turned into glass, and the majority of it is being turned into nothing. It's just exporting as ore, and that's giving us a certain value. So it's always worth trying to turn your raw industry product into something, because you can see we're exporting 64 tons of ore for basically £2,000. However, we're only exporting 16 tons of metal for 3,600. So it's nearly triple the worth for a fifth of the volume. So it's always better to try and turn it into stuff. And you see here, so all these things right here are all producing ore. These are all my raw production buildings, and then these are being turned into various different things. See this guy here, he's saying he doesn't have enough raw materials, but he does. You know, sometimes it bugs out. There you go, he's gone now. He does have plenty of ore. You will see that a couple of times, but they do have ore. It's just the vanilla game kind of bugging out. Again, you can see, let's turn on our industry area overview. So I've placed my production buildings outside of the ore industry zoning that we have available here. So over here we've got some sand storage and ore storage. Both of these are storing ore. So should any of my production buildings here, either the glass manufacturing plant, the fiberglass plant, the ore grinding mill, or the rotary kiln plant ever need ore, they have vast supplies of it here. Because whilst they will be being supplied directly, they also have a lot of storage right here as well, so they can pump that in. You can even see so much that my storage is so good, is that they don't have enough buyers for their ore products anymore. So having adequate storage for these is fine. Is, well, not fine, it's pretty essential to make sure that you can actually store the stuff that you're producing, and then also that your production buildings are all well supplied. So you can see it again. And again, you can notice that this ore industry is pretty isolated away from anything else. It's not, you know, here, where it would produce in a lot of noise, pollution and traffic, and it's got its own dedicated highway zoning again. And then we've also placed in another one of the factories over here as well, which is the industrial steel plant. So this is taking metal and turning it into steel product. So there's the rotary kiln plant produces metal for us, as does the ore grinding mill. These guys will be producing glass. So I've placed the factory nearby, rather than having this thing all the way over, I don't know, here or here. It's right nearby where it's got access to the raw resource that it needs, which is just metal. And then I've also got a storage warehouse here as well, which does a similar job to what these things do over here. It's just storing the reserve ore, which is making sure that both of our item production buildings are being well fed with the raw resource. So that's pretty much how the industry's expansion stuff works. It's really simple. It can be a little confusing at first, but basically you just want to make sure that the flowchart boxes are all have something in them at least. There's different policies that you can apply to them. You know, it kind of increases the upkeep cost of industry buildings, but increases the storage capacity in extractors and processing buildings by 20%. So there's different things you can apply to them. They're not massively game changing, but they will help in terms of efficiency. So that is the steel plant. The factories look really cool as well. Like if you want to make a cool looking industry area, place a factory in there because they look awesome. So yeah, just remember, let them have access to somewhere to export to, and then give them decent amounts of room, because the traffic they generate is pretty crazy. So for those that aren't playing with the industry's DLC. We haven't forgotten about you guys, don't worry. I'd suggest if you don't have the industry's DLC, it is one of the better cities DLCs, so consider picking it up. You can probably grab it in a Steam sale for like £5 now or something. That it'll drop really low when there's a Steam sale on. But it's even worth it in full price in my opinion. So we're going to reference the very first industry area that we built in this city. So this was the start of my city. You can see we built out here. This is where the map started. So basically the first roads we built were this road here, up, across, down and back, just so we have that kind of triangle shape going on. These things kind of have similar rules. So these things still produce raw goods. It's not as refined and as specific as in the zoned industry areas that come with the expansion. But the same rule still applies. So right here, I've given them their own cargo hub, so they can export and import as they need to. And again, these things go off in a number of directions, off and over in this direction, and connect up over here. And then these guys also have access, in fact, multiple access points to a highway. Now, the highway access that they have is quite important here. So, I built this road afterwards because a lot of the traffic for this area comes out of this road. Not so much in, because it's faster for them to come down here and come in this way. But if they didn't have this road here to get back onto the highway, if they're not exporting through here, then they would come back over this road here, because that's their only way out for them, to get back on the highway. They would come over this road, down here, and then down here. So you can imagine all these cars and trucks that come out of this industry area. Granted, it's not massive, but it is big enough to produce a decent amount of traffic. They would all be sending their trucks along here and along here, and that's not what I want, because this is a nice kind of, pretty commercial residential area. I don't want vast amounts of kind of dirty ore and oil trucks pouring down this road and coming in front of them. So that's why I made them their own dedicated highway entrance and exit. So it can be really worth doing that, just for the fact that you don't want to be clogging up your roads with traffic, because again, remember, these things produce a lot of traffic, so just kind of bear that in mind. You really need to plan these areas out. You don't just want to be spamming them around in various different directions, and kind of hoping for the best, really. But I hope that was useful for you guys. My knowledge on the industry isn't the best. There's some really good tutorials out there on the industry stuff. I know the official Cities Skylines channel has done one themselves as well, so maybe go ahead and check that out. That one's only a couple of minutes, and it doesn't go into great detail like we've done here with a 23-minute recording as to how the industry side of your city works. Yeah, but I hope you found it useful. If you did, a like below is very much appreciated. Lets me know that you guys enjoyed the content, and equally as much if you found this totally useless and you thought, that hasn't helped me at all, feel free to leave a dislike on the video as well. It helps me gauge what you guys do and don't enjoy. Just a quick Cities Skylines update for the Cities Skylines followers. The new series will hopefully be out this weekend, hopefully Saturday. And it's going to be a really cool new Let's Play. I'm really looking forward to it. So thanks for sticking around. We are up to 85 subscribers now, which is crazy. Like, I didn't think we would be getting nearly as many subscribers as that. So yeah, thanks so much. I know some people are here for FIFA now. The FIFA series is doing really well. So hey, if you're watching the City stuff as well, great. But if you're here for FIFA, that's totally understandable. But don't worry, neither series are going away, and neither of the series will be being neglected either. So if you subscribe for Cities, you're still going to get your Cities content. If you subscribe for FIFA, you're still going to get your FIFA content as well. If you have any ideas or suggestions for tutorials or inspiration series, please drop them down in the comments below. I'm more than happy to take your guys' recommendations for these. Sorry they've been a little bit slow coming out recently, but work has been mad busy, and obviously the FIFA series starting up. It's just been a little bit mad trying to keep up the content with the demand that's been happening. So thanks very much guys, and as always, enjoy the rest of your day.